Hello everybody, in this video I'm going to provide you the most up-to-date consular processing backlogs and operation update. This is based on a meeting that took place between the American Immigration Lawyers Association and the Department of State, and this is current for March 2022. We'll cover consular processing backlogs, immigrant visa appointment situation, staffing issues at embassies, admin processing issues, and many more items that may be relevant to your case. So what are you waiting for? I'll see you on the other side. Hello everybody, and welcome back to Immigration Channel. This is a place where we get the most up-to-date immigration news, immigration information, and everything else that you need to make your immigration journey less stressful. My name is Jacob Sapochnick, and I'm an immigration attorney located in San Diego, California, and I help clients in all 50 states. And in this video, I'm going to give you information about consular processing backlogs and operations, specifically as it comes from the State Department after its meeting with the American Immigration Lawyers Association, and I'll give you a summary of what they told us. But before we do that, if you're here for the first time, do not forget to subscribe to our channel, click the notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos, and also give us a big like so YouTube will be able to share this video with more people just like you. So let's jump into consular processing backlogs and operations. And so for over the past 20 months, the pandemic and all the delays that resulted because of that definitely impacted consular processing and their ability to schedule immigrant visa and non-immigrant visa appointments. And although many of the original bans have been lifted and rescinded, and majority of the population has already been vaccinated, consulates and embassies worldwide continue to experience severe backlogs. The situation today that it's taking months to obtain routine visa appointments for non-immigrant visas, for example, as well as immigrant visas that are still pending to receive their appointment dates. In an attempt to address these delays, Secretary Blinken announced last year that the State Department is going to hire over 500 officers to help tackle this backlog. One of the questions that were addressed to the State Department is, what is the status of the hiring of this additional personnel? Were they already hired, or they're in the process of being hired? And how is that going to be impacting the consular processing services? So what the State Department said is that they are in the process of hiring new people. They're hiring different groups of people. First of all, they're hiring what they call as generalists. These are people that are going to be supporting the consular officers, supporting consular operations, and they are being hired as soon as they finish their training. The plan is to hire as many as they can by the end of fiscal year 2022. In addition, they're going to be hiring temporary consular professionals. These are professionals that have more knowledge in consular affairs, and they're going to be assigned in the different posts. These are also going to be hired during fiscal year 2022 based on the information that they provided at that latest meeting. And when they were asked about the timing of this hiring, this is what they said. They're working with the Office of Global Talent Management, which is directly associated with the State Department. And they said that many of the posts are going to see new hires by the second part of 2022. So just to give you an idea, we're just now in March of 2022. Most consular posts, most embassies still do not have sufficient staff as were promised last year. So their prediction is that by the second part of 2022, a lot of these new hires are going to be assigned to the different posts, which hopefully will allow them to speed up the processing of immigrant and non-immigrant visas. But they also said that the increase in staffing is not necessarily going to have an impact on the reopening of these posts and speeding up the processing. And the reason behind it is that, as you know, each embassy and consulate is subject to local country conditions. And if the local country conditions are not going to allow them to reopen for whatever reason, even if they have enough staffing over there, they're still going to be limited with what they can do, because maybe the country conditions will not allow them to fully reopen. So just keep that in mind as well. The bottom line is that extra staff is not going to be sufficient to combat the lengthy interview times. They need to do more, and we'll talk about this in a few minutes as to what their idea is behind improving and trying to catch up with the backlogs. The next question was, what are they doing to resume routine visa services in all embassies, and whether the travel bans that are now completely gone, has this impacted in any way their ability to resume routine consular services? And what they said is that, again, some embassies and consulates have resumed routine visa services, but many others are still lagging behind. They are worried about local country conditions. Some of these countries have increased infection rates and local restrictions on what can reopen and when they can reopen. So obviously these embassies and consulates are following the rules of the country where they're located. So it's definitely going to take time, but they are making efforts to try to reopen these consular posts and try to get back to normal routine processing. If you remember in previous videos, we talked about the tier system that they implemented earlier in 2021, and later on they canceled it. The tier system had 4 tiers. They were prioritizing immediate family members, adoptions, then they went to other family members, and finally they had the tier of employment-based green cards, the 4-tier system for immigrant visas. Later on, they canceled that prioritization and they said embassies should be able to decide on their own based on discretion. And so the question was, why did they cancel this prioritization system? Was it helpful? And the State Department said that as embassies started to resume operations, they wanted to give them the freedom to make the decision based on country conditions, because it was very difficult to generalize and systemize this across the board. Some countries were able to reopen faster and they were able to prioritize their cases based on discretion. So obviously, immediate family members first, K-1 visas, and so on and so forth. But they wanted to leave it to the individual consulates, depending on where they were located, to make that decision, and they're still standing by that decision. They were asked if they're going to bring back the prioritization system again. The answer was no, because it is better to leave the decision to the individual consulates, depending on where they are located, to make the decision and give them enough discretion to prioritize cases. And hopefully that will allow them, when they fully reopen, to resume normal visa processing. Another question that is related is that the prioritization system, while it was good at some point, it created a problem for some applicants who could not get their visa prioritized. For example, employment-based cases or family members that were not immediate relatives. And the question is, what happens with those applicants who need an appointment sooner than later? The State Department specifically emphasizes that you can still expedite your case if your priority date is current. You can use the procedures to expedite your case using the national interest exceptions. If you qualify, no matter what category you're in, you can request your case to be expedited. If it's approved, then obviously you'll get priority. So they're still supporting that, and if you need help to expedite your case, remember that we are here as well to help you with that as well. So the bottom line is that if somebody needs help, if somebody needs to expedite their case, State Department will be willing to review those applications on a case-by-case basis. It doesn't matter if you are first, second, third tier, whatever that case may be. The embassy has discretion to make that decision, and also the same thing with your expedited request. With respect to non-immigrant visa interviews, those also are determined by country conditions. Applicants have to look at the individual embassies and see what their appointment system says. Some of these appointment systems are severely backlogged, but again, it's different from country to country. So if you're applying for a non-immigrant visa, it is essential for you to be in touch with a local embassy to determine when they will open more appointment slots for your interview. Let's talk about the interview waiver program. As you know, some non-immigrant visas are allowed to get their interviews waived. This is specifically for applicants who are applying to renew visas in the same category who's about to expire within the next 48 months. This program is set to expire in December 31st, 2021. And the question was, are interview waivers going to continue both on immigrant and non-immigrant side? And the State Department said that consular officers have complete discretion on a case-by-case basis to decide which interviews will be waived, and they'll continue to waive non-immigrant visa interviews who are applying in the same category, who are going to be expiring within the next 48 months. They'll continue to renew that even at the moment. So until further notice, interview waivers continue to happen just like they happened last year. They also said because consular officers have the full discretion to decide which cases could be waived, it will vary from post to post. Some posts will have more cases that interviews are being waived, and other posts where cases are a bit more complicated, they will have less interview waivers. It really depends on where you're applying for your visa. So let's talk about immigrant visa appointments. So here's an important question that was brought to the Department of State. So before the pandemic, a lot of embassies had a lot of applicants that were waiting for their interviews. In fact, there was quite a big inventory of immigrant visas that were essentially pending their interviews. And because of the pandemic, these people were not processed, and many of them are still waiting. The question is whether the Department of State is going to interview those applicants first before taking newly documented qualified applicants from the MVC and processing their interviews. And the State Department, all they had to say is that they are working on processing cases that were subject to the backlog. They didn't say which cases they're going to get priority. All they said is that they're going to be working on processing the backlogs, but at the same time, they're still going to be receiving cases from the National Visa Center. So I'm not really sure exactly how they're going to do it, but it looks like, again, they have discretion. So if an individual post will determine that they had cases pending there for over a year, sometimes 2 years, and now they get new cases coming in, they will try to prioritize the older cases first, but that's not really clear from the answer the Department of State provided to the attorneys asking that question. There's a question that was brought up about specifically nurses, and I know a lot of nurses are watching this channel. The question was, will they be prioritizing nurses, specifically at the post that process the most nurses, like Manila and also London? State Department, they said yes, they will be prioritizing healthcare workers, specifically nurses, and they expect to adjudicate over 5,000 visas from beginning of January all the way through the end of March and April. Definitely they are prioritizing health workers in all posts, but specifically in the most busy. The question was asked about administrative processing. There's a huge backlog with administrative processing cases. And the question was, what is the State Department doing to address this backlog? They said they have a priority to try to work through those cases. They have additional officers specifically working on administrative processing cases and files. And so they hope they're going to be able to catch up on that. Still, the backlog is quite big, and they admit that as well. If your case is subject to admin processing, you have to be patient and make sure you follow up with the post on a regular basis. It's really important to do so. So hopefully this information was helpful. I know it's a lot. We covered immigrant visas, non-immigrant visas, backlogs, and a little bit of indication as to what's going to happen in the future. The bottom line is that it looks like the second part of 2022 is going to look a little bit better, with more staffing, with more efforts to cut through the backlogs. Obviously, if I have more information, I promise to make an updated video and obviously pass the information straight to you. Once again, if you find this information helpful, let me know in the comments below. If you need my help with any of your cases, text me 619-483-4549. I'm here for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.